Be the teacher. Giving choices activity for grades 3 through 5. To set up for the activity, you're going to get into groups of 3. Each group needs one piece of paper. Pause the video while you get set up and then join me for directions. Here's how you play. One person will be the teacher. The other 2 will be students. I will give you a scenario. The teacher will come up with 2 choices and write it on the paper. Then pass it to the first student. The first student writes pros for the 2 options, then passes it to the second student. The second student writes cons for the 2 options. The 2 students then decide what option they would take and tell the teacher. Let's begin. Scenario 1 of 3. Zach was excited for his class field trip to the museum. He could hardly wait to see the bison display. But as he walked into his classroom, he realized that he made a big mistake. Oh no! He had forgotten to wear his orange school shirt. Students were supposed to wear them on field trips. If you are the teacher, what 2 choices would you give Zach? Pause the video as teachers write the 2 options. Now pass the paper. Student number 1, pretend you are Zach. Pause the video to write down what the pros are for each choice. Now pass the paper. Student number 2, pretend you are Zach. Pause the video to write down what the cons for each choice would be. Now it's time to choose. Pause the video while students discuss which choice they would make and practice how Zach should say it to his teacher. Scenario 2 of 3. Listen to all the ways Noodle's teacher has had to redirect him and all of the excuses Noodle has made. Noodle, please stop talking. But it's not my fault. George talked to me first. Noodle, please stop lollygagging. But it's not my fault. I was born this way. Besides, the pencil sharpener needed to be emptied. Noodle, you just interrupted again. But it's not my fault. My mouth is addicted to talking. Noodle, we don't stick our tongue out at other kids. But it's not my fault. TJ did it to me first, and then he stared at me, so I did it back. Besides, it doesn't say we can't do that in the school handbook. Noodle continues to disrupt class and not take responsibility for his actions. If you are the teacher, what 2 choices would you give to Noodle? Pause the video as teachers write the 2 options. Now pass the paper. Student number 1, pretend you are Noodle. Pause the video to write down the pros for each choice. Now pass the paper. Student number 2, pretend you are Noodle. Pause the video to write down what the cons for each choice is. Now it's time to choose. Pause the video while students discuss each choice and then practice how you would say it to your teacher. Here's our last scenario. Maisie hated waiting for her turn to talk during sharing time. She always interrupted others when they were speaking. Ms. Lu said it was rude to interrupt. When Maisie got impatient, she got mad. She shouted and yelled over other people so no one could hear what they were saying. If you are the teacher, what two choices would you give Maisie? Pause the video as teachers write down the two choices. Now pass the paper to student number 1. Pretend you are Maisie. Pause the video to write down what the pros for each choice would be. Now pass the paper to student number 2. Pretend you are Maisie. Pause the video to write down what the cons for each choice could be. Now it's time to choose. Pause the video while Maisie students discuss which choice they would make and practice how they should say it to her teacher. Thanks for being the teacher. Hopefully you learned how to give choices and make choices. We'll see you later. Please remember to hit subscribe, like, and share.